But for a bit of fun on this Wednesday, I've asked our guests, Henry and Andrew, to bring their stock of origin to the field. Let's see if we can convert these tries into some buys. Henry, I'll start with you for New South Wales.
Well, I couldn't think of anything more New South Wales, Nadine, than the Bank of New South Wales, or the Wales as it was first called back in 1817 when it was founded, and which of course became Westpac back in 1982 when it took over the Commonwealth Bank. Not the CBA, that is. So this one is, I guess, we saw a big fall in all those banking stocks back in June when we got the first sort of seismic shift from the RBA as they raised rates. And of course, that's been followed up in July. So the damage really was done. And Westpac hasn't really been able to grow its mortgage book. And we are, of course, underwhelmed at the moment with the house prices as they tend to be on the nose a little bit. So there's not a huge amount to get excited about in Westpac, except, of course, the yield, which is, looking at around 5.2% going forward, 100% franked, of course. So there is that attraction there with the yield. We are seeing, of course, interest rates edging higher, and that is all important for those net interest margins, which certainly is helping. So that is a positive there. But on the negative side of things, of course, the costs are rising as well. IT professionals, systems, all that sort of stuff. The cost base there is rising, and Westpac did abandon its cost target, its cost out target for expenses. So that was unusual because the other three banks tended to stick to it. So it's certainly one of the ugly ducklings, I guess, of the sector in terms of the other three, NABs and CBA, the favoured ones, Westpac and ANZ not so favoured. So it's very much a hold for me at the moment. I can't get excited about it in terms of growth with the headwinds that we've got from the housing sector, and it does need to make up some mileage in the mortgage market because it has struggled a little bit there. But on a yield basis, it doesn't look too bad. And after that big fall, it may offer a little bit of value here. And we have seen the sector bounce, but I think that may be it for the time being. So it's a hold for me.
Interesting. If Andrew has come up with a buy from the state of Queensland, then I think he wins this game because that was not a ringing endorsement for the best of New South Wales. Andrew, what have you got?
Well, apart from some bad hair attire, it's Flight Centre.
Flight Centre. So are you buying Flight Centre?
No.
I think we might have established the rules wrong here. Okay, why is Flight Centre your pick then to discuss today?
No, I seriously, I think Flight Centre probably is worth a buy, but there's lots of caveats to it, lots and lots of caveats. But let's just talk about the thesis. So, we've got the reopening trade underway. Corporate travel, according to Flight Centre, is now around back to 76% of where it was pre-pandemic, which I thought was pretty surprising. We're certainly seeing lots of footage of Sydney and Melbourne and Brisbane, in fact, airports all around the world under a fair bit of pressure at the moment because people are returning to travel. But that's then also coming back to one of the main constraints as well. We saw overnight that Heathrow said they're going to be limiting the number of departures a day. I think it was only to 100,000. So that's certainly, whilst the demand might be improving, despite all the things that are being thrown at us, there are a number of constraints there as well. From a business point of view, Flight Centre is holding about $1.3 billion in cash. Now, part of that is to do with their debt covenants, that they do need to be holding high degrees of cash, but they are in fact now EBITDA positive. And although forecasting off a loss for this year, they do appear to be turning the corner. So to me, it is a tentative buy. Probably the only time I'll get away with saying that with you today, Nadine. It's probably a tentative buy, but there are certainly plenty of headwinds, bit of turbulence, one might say, with this one.
Waiting for that. All right, well, you win this one, Andrew, with your tentative buy. Flight Centre v Westpac. Flight Centre wins. Thanks so much, guys.